Daniel, you got a story for the people. What's going on, buddy?
Okay. So we've been hearing on mainstream news because, you know, they're always right about everything except the majority of the time when they're not right about anything. It's almost as if much of the news is like, yeah, what do the people in power say? Okay, that's what we're going to write. And I brought this story up because it shows where America is at. So this is a poll that was done, I believe it may have been done by The Hill. Let me actually, anyway, that found that 54% of Americans.
Newsweek.
Yeah, well, that's Newsweek reported on it.
Yeah.
But it might have, anyway, it was on Monmouth University poll. My bad. There we go. That this is huge. Think about this when I say this number. 54% of Americans thought that burning down the police precinct at the very beginning of all of this was justified to some degree, either fully or partially, after his death. This is big. I'm gonna give my thoughts on it after, but I kind of want to go through the data first. So, a majority of Americans, at 54%, believed that burning down a Minneapolis police precinct following the death of George Floyd was justified, according to a new poll. It was of 807 people, so it's a larger than normal poll. Most of them are like 300 or 400, so it's, you know, larger. So there you go. And they said that, and the margin of error was 3.5%, so pretty good. It asked respondents if they thought that actions taken by protesters, including the burning of the precinct building, was fully justified, partially justified, or not at all justified. According to the poll, 17% said fully, which is 17% of people saying yes, they burned it down, that needed to happen, we're fully behind it. And then 37% said partially, like, yeah, I understand it, I understand why they did it, that kind of a mentality. And then 38%, so those first two add up to 54%, which is where you get that number. And then 38% said not at all. And then you have, I guess, your unknown, or I don't know yet. I haven't picked up my decision for the rest. But that in America, those are pretty good numbers. So continuing, the poll also asked respondents if they felt that the anger that led to the protest was justified, regardless of the actions taken by demonstrators. According to a poll, this is the second part, also enormously important. 78% said the anger that is being felt in America is justified. 78% in America. Americans.
That's a really high number.
That's a huge number.
That's a high
number. With 57% saying fully. So that's a majority saying completely. I understand. Yes, I understand the anger. 21%, again, one of their partials. Only 18% of Americans said that the anger felt was not at all justified. Those numbers mean that there were a number of Republicans who are also feeling this way. This is huge. So according to the poll, this is another one. This was big because they go into like 4 years ago to now, which you'll see is really big. According to the poll, 57% said that excessive force is most likely used on black subjects. So people, a majority, 57%, it's almost a filibuster of Americans, said that black people are treated unfairly by police. And we'll get to why that's big right now, and that is it has increased, that response has increased by 23% since July 2016. So that means it's basically doubled. The amount of Americans means that the previous poll that they did, that means 4 years ago, 24% of people thought that black people were unjustly attacked by police. And now it's 57%. That's an enormous change in 4 years for millions of Americans.
Yeah,
there's
a lot I want to.
Then there were 33% of people that said that police used excessive force on black people and white people at similar rates. A decrease of 19% in the same 4-year time period, where it used to be 52%. So we have gone in 4 years from the majority of Americans saying, basically, those black people are just making this shit up. They're not accurate. They're not telling the truth. They're exaggerating with their own fluffy ideas and lies. And now the majority of Americans go, yes, no, there's no question about it. Black people are unfairly treated. That's an enormous shift in perception. And I think that's enormous. I think it's enormous because everything comes down to, and so we talk about the show all the time, is that what people think, the hearts and what people believe is happening is the foundation for everything. That's why the news is so important. Because if you can get the news to make people think that black people are making things up, whether it be Fox or MSNBC or CNN, or that it's exaggerated, or they're just looters or all that other stuff like we're seeing now, this changes. The fact that the numbers are the way they are means that we're winning.
Right.
We're winning.
So here's the thing.
Even though it's, in a terrible situation.
It's a weird way to win.
Yeah.
We're in the midst of something that hasn't been seen in this country in a long time. That's collective rage, collective anger, and we're seeing. Just go on Twitter, go on Instagram, and you'll see, even on YouTube as well. You're going to see numerous videos of police instigating and starting violence, attacking, mowing down innocent protesters, non-violent protesters. There are videos of police basically laying out bricks, or they themselves setting their cars on fire, or looting stores and small businesses, or wait, or either that, arresting small business owners, and then because there are some examples of some looters doing some horrible things, but when the small business owners call the cops, you see the cops arrest the small business owners, especially if they're African American or Latino. And this is something that's long overdue. And again, I'm going to give shout out to Schultz 100, who basically said it's not just only justified. He's saying it's long overdue, and it's rather sick knowing that this is what it's come down to. And this is what happens when we have politicians who turn a blind eye. This is what happens when you have a corporate media saying, well, this side says this side says this, but we're gonna call it the middle ground, and maybe somebody will solve nothing. Or like Lori Lightfoot, our mayor, who says, get this, everyone, are you ready? Here's her big plan. 90 days, police reform. 90 days, police reform. What the hell does that look like, Mayor Lightfoot?
Increase their budget.
I mean, you shut down the city, you raised the bridges up, and for what? I mean, you overreacted, and you made people's lives even that more miserable. I mean, come on, Mayor.
And it's still, like, whenever I was getting on the train today,
yeah,
like, the Brown line, at least the Brown line, I take the Brown line to work and everywhere, but, like, you still can't go to, I think it's State and Lake, or there's still some places downtown that they're just now opening up, even though the city's been open for a day now, right?
Yeah, and it's childish at this point, and I'm really curious to see what the Chicago municipal election cycle will look like, and whether or not Mayor Lightfoot is a one-term mayor. Because if she's just offering 90 days for police reform, here's what I have to say to the mayor. Mayor, I know what the issues are in Chicago. 1, we are a hyper-segregated city. Number 2, we have a corrupt police force. Number 3, we have a corrupt city government. Number 4, our schools, especially in the South and West Side areas, are underfunded. They must be refunded. Chicago's not broke. Huge shout out to Tom Treasure. I haven't done this in a while. Read his book, Chicago's Not Broke, written by Tom Treasure. Again, the book is called Chicago's Not Broke. We're not endorsed or sponsored by Tom Treasure at all. But, I mean, check out his book. If you want to know just exactly why Chicago has money, check that book out again. It's called Chicago's Not Broke, written by Tom Treasure. Also, Mayor, there's still lead in Chicago's drinking water, and there's so many other issues as well. You ran on reform. You ran on environmental protection. You ran on so many other things. You won a landslide victory, and I don't know if you should be reelected at this point, because your action is just similar to all these other mayors overreacting as well, and it says a lot about your current tenure as being Chicago's mayor. And I think also on a side note too, be prepared to see more pushback from people, because there's going to be another video out there showing police abusing their power. There's going to be another video of an innocent person losing their life thanks to police corruption and police brutality, and it shouldn't be allowed. How come we're the only country that has this problem? Oh, that's right. We never evolved. We never updated our laws. We never changed. We just remain the same. Daniel, what's the final note?
Ross, do you want to say anything first?
Well, yeah, I, on my Twitter, have been finding, there's a lot of different threads that you can find that are just, like, hundreds of videos deep of police brutality, like, during these protests, and I've been trying my best to retweet them and find them. I'll put them somewhere so that you can find them, but it's super important to pay attention to, because the only way that we can ensure public accountability of the police is by just filming them, documenting them, like shaming the public offices into actually making change. 'Cause it's worked with George Floyd so far, right? I mean, maybe they're just kicking the can a little bit, but there's no way that we can just say like, oh, well, they arrested the other 3 guys, they upgraded the charge, so there's no, we don't have to worry. There's no big problem. There's no race issue with the police anymore. We're done. But that's what happens every time. But this time does feel different.
It has to.
Yeah.
The momentum has to maintain. If people stop what they're doing right now, all of this goes away, because you have to realize that. And again, I'll bring this up 1,000 times. Rules for rulers is such an essential way to understand how these things happen and what causes permanent systemic change. It's just an incentive structure of people doing the thing that, in a sense, that they're bribed to do, either through policy or payment. And right now, we have a story that's going to be coming up a little later, talking about how that might be happening in LA. We will see. I don't believe anything until it's put into practice.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal that we need to fight for is not just for Floyd. He is a person that represents a moment, like a conduit moment that we're dealing with right now, that is brought together by economic issues that merge into race issues. But the root of the cause of this, the tree itself, is a tree of economics, with its first main branch outwards being in race.
Yeah.
So that's, again, I will say this again, do not fully go into that angle of just focusing on the race. This is economics.
Yes.
These are areas that are
Absolutely.
too poor to have good representation, that don't have good schooling. It's all about power. All of this is about who controls what. And I think a huge thing that needs to be called for in every single city is community oversight of policing the neighborhoods,
and end their unions
oversee
at this point.
the police. And I think police unions need to go at this point. And
look, we understand.
or
we
at
need
least
unions.
weaken. Police should be. I have this. Police unions should be as strong as teacher unions. How's that? How's that?
That's a good start.
Oh,
And so if you want to make police unions stronger, you got to make teachers stronger as well. Because if I'm not mistaken, most cops in a city make like $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Most of the city budgets of major cities, it's literally the equivalent of the military. Like federally, half your money goes to the military. Locally, half your money goes to the cops. We need to find a way to make that work better. Like, I think here's an initiative I have right now. Every single cop, of course, community policing, maybe run that by ward, but have it citizen run, and they have the ability to fire cops, hire cops, everything of that nature. Here's the other thing that I think is important with cops. I understand if you're a cop and you are in a cop for a long time, you will get very, very cynical. I want cops to have a one-on, one-off. Obviously, all the other training stuff, obviously that as well. Make it more like Europe. But I want cops for 1 month on the beat. Next month, they're volunteering in the community, getting to know the people. Next month, back on the street, doing beat. Next month, they're volunteering.
No, I want them to do community guarding. That's what I want them to do.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by volunteering. Just wherever, in a sense, it's almost like a federal jobs initiative, except they're already employed.
Yeah.
So it's like it's because if you can get the cops to see the neighborhoods that they're in as people that they know and have relationships with, because they've spent a month in the community. No, they lose their police powers. They have no weapons on them. They just are in standard civilian clothes, helping out the community. If police did that, they might, for a minute, start seeing the people that they are supposed to be guardians of as people that are worthy of their protection, worthy to take a bullet for these people, rather than just an occupying force.
Because also, I want to end this on a final note too, and it's not really related to this story, but it's just more of just somewhat related. George Floyd's daughter on Twitter, I think Benjamin Dixon, I think I said his name right. He's on Twitter. He tweeted out George Floyd's daughter, basically saying, "My dad changed the world," and it was a high price. But you got to remember that George Floyd had a family, he had friends, he had people that he knew, and he didn't deserve to die like that. The police didn't have to do that. They already had him detained. We need to fundamentally change it so that there are no more other people who lose their loved ones thanks to police brutality. We must be better. We must progress. We must push forward for a better future. And look, I know, I hate saying that there might be some good cops out there. You know who you are. You've seen the corruption. You've seen the abuse of power. In the name of God, step up and do the right thing. Okay? And I'm not a religious person either, but come on, chop to it.